Gotta listen to this, hype myself up.
Hell yeah.
Hey, welcome to Shortcasts with Ryan, and I'm your host.
Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of Shortcasts with Ryan. Today is going to be a special episode number 21, and we actually have our second sexy guest here on the podcast. I am happy to introduce you to Mr. Patrick Pulliam. Pat is one of my friends that I've had for several years now and is another like-minded young entrepreneur who's done everything from start a hat business to real estate to food testing and probably a whole bunch in between. But Pat, why don't you tell us just a touch about yourself? Let us get to know you a little bit better.
Cool. Man, that was awesome. I have to smile after you give me an intro like that. So, I am I guess what you would call a businessman of some sorts, real estate agent, own a hat company, and recently started a food review page on social media. I love food, sports, I love to work out, I love playing basketball, reading, but I would say probably the biggest thing that pertains to why I'm here today is I love to learn and grow and talk about things that I learned. And so, yeah, I'm excited to be here, man.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think one of the things Pat and I have the most in common is our love for learning. And there's few people that I've spoken with that you just get into a conversation with, and it's all ears. And you can tell these people when you talk to them because you start saying something and they start to listen. And that's a skill that Pat definitely has a really respect. So Pat, I want to start off, let's just take it back to the beginning of when you became an entrepreneur. Tell us a little bit about Pat's Hats, kind of when did that start? What drove that? What is Pat's Hats?
Love it, yeah. So Pat's Hats is the first ever business that I started. It is a brand consisting of a logo that we put on as many hats as we possibly could and sold them around town. Now this was in East Texas. I was living in Tyler at the time. During high school, I was 17 years old, and I had just quit playing sports. I had just quit playing basketball for the first time. It was the first time ever that I wasn't an athlete anymore, and I came home one day and I was like, Mom, I'm kind of bored. I really want to start a business. I wanted a way to stand out. And so we brainstormed different ideas on what I could start and what I could sell and what I could do. And I don't know, a couple weeks later, I came up with my design and really just ramped it up, started selling these hats.
Yeah. I didn't know. Did you really brainstorm with your mom?
Me and my mom, yeah. Well, I didn't realize that was embarrassing until I just said it, but my mom was actually a big reason why I started Pat's Hats. She came up with the name. She did. Great at rhyming, obviously.
Yeah.
That was fun. But I came home to my mom. We sat at the table and she was like, "What if you sold this? What if you did that?" And that takes me back, obviously, to my whole life. My mom being a big entrepreneurial motivator in my life of start businesses, sell things, and so that is kind of just, I don't know, that's how it went.
Wow.
Yeah.
I this is something I'm learning. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know your mom had an influence in Pat's Hat. That's not embarrassing at all. I think that's really cool. Okay, so off the cuff, is there one lesson that your mom taught you that is the best lesson? Is there one thing that sticks out in your mind that your mom has drove into your head?
My mom is relentless. She is one of the biggest and best personalities I know. And I think the biggest thing that she taught me and has continued to teach me over the years is every person that you meet can turn into and bring you to your next opportunity. So you got to love everybody.
Yeah.
You got to give everybody a shot, hear them out. Everybody's unique in a way. And so she definitely kind of taught me that. And she's like, hey, start this business. and I'm like totally down for it. And from there, I've just modeled a lot of things after her, amongst so many other people that I've kind of learned from in my life.
Dang, man, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I had no idea. That's really cool. I'll have to meet Miss Pulliam.
I'm glad you asked. Yeah, she's gonna hear this and she's gonna love that, by the way.
Okay. Well, cool. So you were in high school. You just stopped playing sports, and you decided to sell something. With the help of your mom, you thought of Pat's Hats. How did you really start? Because I've seen a lot of young entrepreneurs who come up with an idea, they come up with something they want to do, and then that's kind of it. It fizzles out. So how did you put that idea into motion? What were the actions you took that kind of got the ball rolling?
That's a really great point. So basically, when we came up with the idea to start selling hats, I was just over the top excited about it. Immediately, I gained the connection because my grandfather, call him Granddad, is actually in the merchandising business, and he worked for kind of a manufacturer of different goods. They put logos and designs on pins, shirts, you name it.
Okay.
And so he was my first connection into how do I wholesale, right? How do I order a bunch of hats that are extremely cheap, and then be able to print on them and really make designs? Because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, you know. And so he was my first contact that I made, and I was excited about that because a lot of people will turn to websites, they'll turn to wholesale.com or whatever, and so I really got kind of the insight from somebody who was already in a similar business, and I got to get that connection right away. With that being said, I was having hats made before the business really turned into an LLC, and so I kind of got a head start on that as well, and so that was the first step. I would say the next step was, what am I going to put on this, right? I've got Pat's Hats, okay, so what does my design look like? What does my logo look like? And when it comes to a clothing brand or an apparel brand of some sorts, it's all about the branding. It's about the design, it's about the logo, it's about, what are we portraying out? Who's going to wear these, right? Like, what do we, and so, I got hats on the shelf over there, the camera can't see.
Does that Pat's Hats, sorry for the podcast, you'll have to check our YouTube videos for some visual aids here. Does that Pat's Hats have the stick man on it?
It's okay, Dylan, will you grab that?
Yeah.
Or will you grab it? Yeah,
grab
for sure.
this.
So this is the
there it is.
This is a later generation hat that I made. This is not, so this is a trucker, a cotton trucker right here. All right. A PH design that we created kind of later on, which you'll notice that there is a PH on the side. All right, you can't see it as well obviously on this hat, but this is the brand that we put on all of them. Do you happen to have your hat with you?
I don't have my hat with me.
I know, we're gonna have to pop up something on the screen.
Yeah.
It is a PH for Pat's Hats. If you turn it sideways, it's a stick man wearing a hat, and there you go. So I'm proud to say, if you want to just toss it over there.
Oh yeah.
I'm extremely proud to say that that logo is something that I drew up on my own.
Nice.
Purely out of artistic curiosity.
Yeah.
Right after we started saying, okay, I'm gonna sell hats. Like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? I spent time sitting in class drawing over and over and over again what I wanted the design to look like.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a happenstance, and I jumped out of my seat with excitement when I came up with it.
Really?
Oh my gosh, I was ecstatic.
It is a great design. So yeah, for those on the podcast, we'll check out the YouTube videos that will be up on, I think, both my channel and Pat's channel. You can see that Pat's Hats design yourself. Pat, actually, whenever I started my dog training business, Positive Pup, he made a collab hat out of nowhere. I basically get a text and Pat says, I'm at your door, I've got something for you. And I was like, what the heck, what's this dude doing? And I walked to my door and opened it up, and he hands me 3 hats that have the Positive Pup logo and the Pat's Hats logo on the side, and they're just incredible. So what a gift. Still one of my favorite hats today. I should have brought it, but we'll add pictures of that. But it brings up a point. So I've always kind of been more business minded. I like numbers. I consider myself a numbers guy. I tried to do a Positive Pup logo, and yikes. is the only word that can describe it. And so I came in here today, and you've got some good doodles, you got some good sketches. How does lots of people might see you as like a business guy, but like, man, how does that artistic side come out? Because it seems like you've got a bit of an artist in you somewhere.
I think that was the kind of the inspiration when I started, was what can I design that people will like and catch on to. I love the way you said that, because, you know, we almost see people in business, entrepreneurs, businessmen, as kind of a one-way type of personality, right? Oh, they're great at sales. Oh, they, you know, wear suits, right? They've got this image behind them. Oh, they're good at numbers, and they've got their finances in order. And we talked about that off camera. But there's so many different routes to take when being an entrepreneur, being a businessman. I always thought that kind of my greatest gift was my artistic, maybe creative side, where I'm not very good in the finance department, and I've had to work to kind of get that going. My spark of ideas and spark of kind of artistic design and everything has brought me to where I am in business today.
Man, that's another lesson that I've learned I didn't know about you, but that's really cool.
Thank you.
Well, sweet. So, and you know, you did Pat's Hats through high school, and then so you left Texas. As a bit of a background story, you left Texas, came up to Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas.
Did, yeah.
And you did a little bit of Pat's Hats here, but what happened with Pat's Hats after you moved to Arkansas?
I did. So that was a really big transition period. And so the story is, Ryan, basically when I was graduating high school, and sorry, backtrack one time, I was born in Rogers here in Northwest Arkansas, and then moved to Texas when I was really young, grew up there. And so I'm a senior in high school. I've got Pat's Hats going. I'm trying to figure out what am I going to do with, you know, the next phase of my life. People are going to college. People are beginning to kind of figure out what they want to do for work and such. And I was really just stuck on this entrepreneurial path. And so my sister is getting married to a guy named Brandon Howard, who turns into my brother-in-law shortly. Brandon and I became great friends. And he is actually the spark of inspiration as to why I'm in Arkansas today, because he called me and said, why don't you come work with me? He's an entrepreneur. He's in the dog business. He's managed restaurants and done a plethora of things.
Yeah.
And I said, this is the type of guy that I want to be around. Why don't I partner up with him? And so I move up to Arkansas right after high school, and we kind of start working together on some other things. Given that was the first mistake I made in my life as well with Pat's Hats, because I did not translate most of my, I would say, database. My customer database for Pat's Hats was in Texas, and so I almost sacrificed that business to get into kind of the next phase of my life.
Gotcha.
And that's what happened.
So you in a way, you left all the customers behind. You packed up and moved, and you came seeking kind of the new version of Pat, more opportunities. Which, you know, I think that's a great transition. What did you end up doing next? What did Pat do? 20-year-old, 19 years old? I don't know how old.
So I love how you said that that's like a transitional piece kind of to my life, because it really was. I moved to Arkansas. I barely know anybody. I'm working with Brandon. I know my sister, and I know some friends from back in the day, obviously with some of our mutual friends, which, by the way, is when I met Ryan, when I moved back years ago. You know, that was the biggest point in my life where I was able to almost recreate myself. So I started going to the gym. I got a haircut. I started growing some facial hair. I became a little bit more mature of a man and as a human being, and I began to really grow, like, who am I, what am I doing, and where do I want to be in life. And so that was huge, and I unfortunately had to leave my friends behind in Texas and kind of restart who I was, but that was such a big thing as well, because I was able to recreate myself, and that's kind of led me to where I am today.
That's awesome. Yeah. You became the butterfly you were meant to be.
Right. Came out of the cocoon a little bit. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, sweet. So yeah, like you came, you started working out, and for those of you on the podcast, you're missing out big time, because Pat's pretty jacked.
That's an overstatement, but
making me feel pretty small. But okay, so let's talk about a little bit. You were trying to transition, and you were doing Pat's hats, but now you're looking for something different. You've met Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say how did you start getting into real estate? When did that seed get planted? How did that decision get made?
Yeah, so it was almost a spur of the moment thing. Brandon and I, at the time I was working at the restaurant that he was managing, it was called Smokin' Joe's, and we had talked about kind of going on some different business ventures. Was I going to revamp Pat's Hats and start selling those in Arkansas a little bit more? He at the time was selling purebred German Rottweilers, so he was breeding and selling Rottweilers, most beautiful dogs ever. Yeah. And so and he had so much business experience as a young guy himself. And so it was really kind of both of our ideas, but it was Brandon's idea to say, hey, why don't we get into a business where we can sell houses, we can sell kind of larger ticket items, you almost might want to say, and we can make larger commissions, and we can kind of grow a business in this sense that's a little bit more mature. And so it was definitely Brandon's kind of spark of an idea. He was connected with one of the brokers here in Northwest Arkansas for Keller Williams, and we got into class right away and got our licenses and got out there and started selling. Now, from my perspective, I'm with Brandon and I say, sure, like, let's get it. If I can sell one house, if I can sell two houses, then I'll make my money back and would have benefited in some way. And so that was kind of my perspective, was like, why not? Let's try it. And then now we're 2.5, 3 years down the road, and things have changed quite a bit.
Wow. That's okay. So that's awesome. I'm going to dig into that. But first, kind of, I want to ask a question. What do you identify as? Like, if someone asked you, what do you do? What's the short answer?
It is a very tough answer to tell someone what I do within 1 to 2 words. I typically say real estate agent.
Okay.
But there is kind of a lot more to it just because of some of the other projects and businesses that I'm in. But it's hard to mumbo jumbo all of that.
Okay, we'll get into those other businesses in a few minutes. But I just wanted to see, for personal curiosity, if you identified as a real estate agent or something bigger than that.
So that's a great question.
Got a good answer.
I'm going to do some soul searching for that one as well.
At one day in the past 3 years, you had identified as a real estate agent, correct? Gotcha.
Absolutely.
So, let's help some people understand this. You got your real estate license, and you started this new real estate venture with Brandon. How were those first 6 months, those years? Some people might look at you now and that you're selling houses and think like, man, this is easy. Like, if Pat can do it, anyone can do it. So was it all just like smooth sailing, or kind of what was the path to where you are now in real estate like?
I wish that I could say that I was an overnight success in real estate. So Brandon got off to a really hot start, and he became a really great salesman in the business. And so he was selling house after house after house, and actually in the runnings for it, should have won the award, Rookie of the Year Salesman for Keller Williams, which is a huge honor. So he was off to this hot start and getting a lot of attention, and I was really slow to start. This is how most people are in this business. It's, you get in, you don't know anybody, and people don't really trust you as a brand new person in real estate to help them with a massive financial decision. And so I sold one house with a buddy of mine, David, who happened to be buying something new. I got in on that deal, and that was my first deal. And I think that was 4 to 6 months in to business. So after that, it takes me another probably 4 to 6 months to get my next deal. And I think things probably started picking up maybe a year and a half when I was into the business before I could really say that I was making some sort of money in real estate. It's one of those jobs where it's pretty, it looks good.
Uh-huh.
If you're a real estate agent, you look like you've got it all figured out, but there are a lot of struggles. There are a lot of people that don't make it through that first year. It's pretty rough.
I can't imagine 4 to 6 months without any sort of like benefit of like all this work you've been putting in. Was that what you were doing full time? Did you have any other jobs or income at the time, or?
So basically the way I stayed alive was I was still working sometimes at the restaurant trying to pick up shifts. I was selling hats, so I did basically took Pat's hats and crumbled it down to almost like all I would do was only make kind of bigger orders for people.
Yeah.
So if somebody needed 10, 20, 30 hats for a group, for a business, whatever, I was able to make those. And that's how I made some money. But in reality, it was just a pure struggle.
Gotcha.
And I remember being pretty much every day like, this is tough. Like what I'm doing is not. I don't want to say smart, but it was it was tough every day to be like I'm not making very much money and you know.
It sounds tough.
It definitely was.
Was there any sort of what got you through that tough period? Is there anything you fell back on either spiritually, or is there a thought that you had, or was it just motivated that you're just absolutely not going to fail no matter what?
That's a good question. As you know, I'm a huge Christian man, so obviously my belief in God and who He wants me to be in life is massive, and that's what drives me a lot. But I would say the biggest person as a driving factor was Brandon, along with my family as well. But Brandon was kind of there right by me.
Yeah.
We kept going, kept hustling together, kept really like trying to grow this thing, and that's what kept me in. That's what kept me from thinking, you know what, I just started, I don't really have anything going, maybe it's not for me, to thinking there's benefits down the line if I can, you know, I'm good at this. I can keep going and I can keep getting better.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's an awesome story.
Thank
so, you know, 1 year, the first year of real estate, it was a struggle. You sold 2 houses. Didn't know if it was going to work out, but you kept in it. The second year, how did that look like? So business starts to pick up. Kind of what is that transformation? The next butterfly version of Pat?
Yeah, that's a good. So it's almost a new chapter. First year versus second year. So the second year had a pretty good start. Closed a couple of deals towards the beginning of the year, but I would say halfway through my second year of real estate, things exploded. I closed my first big commercial deal, which was over $1.5 million sale, which is incredible. I had a couple other deals that closed, and so I ended up, I think at the end of my second year, closing 17 deals.
Wow.
Which compared to, I think, 2 in the first year is quite a jump.
A breakout.
So, so that was at, you know, a point in my life where I was like, okay, now I feel like I'm accomplishing something, doing something, and I'm making all the right moves to really grow this as a business.
Yeah.
I'm building my database. I'm building kind of a list of people who send me deals and send me business and have turned into kind of my advocates in real estate. Was there kind of like a change in tactics that like led you to kind of blowing up, or is there something you did differently, a way you approach things differently, or was it simply just keeping your nose to the grindstone that kind of caused this explosion? You know, the biggest thing that I realized was, and we talked about it earlier, is there is a lot of different types of successful people in this world. There's no carbon copy of exactly what somebody needs to be like to be successful.
Yeah.
So for Brandon, he's a great salesman, and he's very high-powered, dominant type of salesman who can get a lot of things done and handle a lot of tasks and can negotiate very strongly and things like that, okay? But my approach was, I built my business off of relationships, off of friendships. I made friends, like my office right now, I'm partnered with a local insurance guy named Cesar Garcia. We have partnered together, so he gets people in his business who say, hey, we're needing to buy a house, and he sends them to me, and then vice versa. My people who need insurance, I send them to him. And so there's these strategic relationships, basically, with other people in similar businesses, where we're able to kind of cultivate a relationship where I know that we have a back and forth, and that's where my business comes from. Is this kind of know, like, and trust version of a business? Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's
so
the strategy.
Helping people has ended up helping you.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
It always comes around.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I'm glad you figured that out. It's really inspiring to see. And I've been lucky enough to know Pat kind of since he really started. We've known each other better in the past year or two. But seeing Pat go from getting his license to kind of struggling, and you wouldn't ever hear about it, to like you're closing some good deals.
Sure.
It's been sweet to see. So I want to ask a little bit. So at this point, year 2, you call yourself, well, you are a real estate agent. You're doing great. And so now we're in year 3. Things are starting to change. The climate is strange. If you listen to this in the future, we are in June, and COVID-19 is still kind of in effect. Lots of weirdness going on.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of view your real estate career now, and kind of how has it maybe shifting? Because you said you're not fully a real estate agent. You do real estate,
right?
And you support that and you help people with that. But you're more than that now. So kind of what is this chapter looking like?
I think that there's a couple different answers. So from a real estate buyer's perspective, not much has changed with the market, right? Mm-hmm. You would think that the housing, the mortgage interest rates, loans have changed completely because of COVID, but there hasn't been much of a change there. And so in terms of going about our business and helping people get into houses, there's still really good rates. We're still in a really good time. With that being said, getting business is completely different, because where I built all of my business, like I was saying, from relationships, networking, befriending people, and becoming, better in relationships. How do you do that when you have to stay inside? How do you do that when you're not allowed to talk to people or shake hands?
Yeah.
How do you build relationships? And so it's been a complete change of strategy for getting business, and that kind of has led me to almost double, triple down on the way that I've gone about my social media and building relationships and building kind of a brand on social media.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. That's inspiring. So you've shifted tactics. You were quick in realizing that, man, things are changing. The way year 2 exploded is not necessarily going to be the way year 3 keeps exploding.
Right.
So you start experimenting or trying social media. So let's talk about social media a little bit.
Let's do it.
How did you start really focusing on your social media presence, and kind of what did you do kind of step 1? So year 2, you're Patrick Pulliam selling houses. Year 3 now, you're trying to expand your social media presence. So what did you start doing?
Interesting. So it's been a combination of things. Social media, from kind of layman's terms, is the best strategy to go about with social media is post as much as you can, and post to the effect where you're putting out a good branded message to people, where they can catch on and they can kind of see what you do, and your life is almost highlighted at certain points.
Yeah.
Now there's good ways to go about that and bad ways to go about that. We know that the biggest issue on social media is probably that people don't show their flaws as much, and they but that's not the conversation we're going with. It's more about pointing out the things that you're good at. Here's what I do. So I post about houses, I post real estate tutorial videos, which are big. And then kind of in addition to that, just different types of pictures and videos of me in the field and kind of doing what I do in action. It has created this following of people who understand what I do, and are almost eager to see and hear from me, where they wouldn't have known
Yeah.
what is real estate, what does a real estate agent do. Now they're able to kind of be like, oh wow, so Patrick's a real estate agent, so I'm learning from him, and now I'm able to, as Patrick, kind of educate the younger generation into what is it like to buy a house, how do you do it, and kind of giving them that tunnel.
Yeah.
Right?
That's awesome. So this is something that, I've got a question about it. I'm sure other people who might be young, might be in high school thinking of starting their own hat company, might be thinking is, if I'm trying to get better at building a social media presence, creating my own personal brand and getting out there, you said it's important that you just post frequently, but like you're also teaching people. Can you post frequently about like just yourself? Then would that work, or is it really you have to have something that's like meaningful and educational for this strategy to work?
I think that being entertaining is huge on social media. So whether that's kind of showing the in the life type of what you do, but more importantly, it's educating. People will always want to follow you and want to be a part of what you're doing if you're able to kind of show them and teach them, here's what I do, here's what you can do. And so that's been kind of I don't want to say it's a strategy, because it's just how we do it. It's not a strategy to, trick anybody. It's literally just, here's what I do. If you follow along, that's great. And so we've taken on kind of a unique, I'll say the word strategy. So we've gone on TikTok, and on TikTok we've posted purely just informational. Here's how to quote unquote, cheat the system. Here's how to get the best deal. Here's how to do this and that. And that's resonated a lot with people. And then also Instagram is probably our biggest platform, where it's all about, here's houses we've closed, here's how to do this, here's how to buy a house, here's how to schedule this or schedule that.
That kind of brings me, to a question, and I'm curious about. Did it start off you focusing on social media? Did it start off just kind of on Instagram, and you were like really trying to knock Instagram out of the park, or when did you start like spreading out to different media? And what would you recommend? Should someone split time and focus across all types of like social media, or should someone like be like an Instagram or TikTok like specialist?
I like that you said that. So I started out purely on Instagram and then a little bit on Facebook, and since then I've gotten onto LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube, amongst other things, Twitter a little bit as well. I think the most important thing that I realized was, if I post on Instagram, I've got a pretty good following, but my mom's not going to ever see that post, right? So I'm thinking of potentially a middle-aged woman. Mom, you're young. Everybody else though. I'm thinking of a middle-aged woman who's not active on Instagram or TikTok. How are they ever going to see and understand what I'm doing? They're never going to see me. And so even though I don't have as massive a following on certain platforms, it's important to be on all of them to give yourself the opportunity to reach the most amount of people. So even if you've got 50 followers, it's still important to post, because they may only be on that platform or one or two platforms. You can't expect everybody to just be on Instagram and always see your stuff.
That's awesome. So let's say there was a 15-year-old who's kind of listening to this, who's thinking about wanting to kind of start their own thing. What type of advice, whether that's through social media or through just starting a business at a young age, or learning, what advice would you kind of maybe give that person?
Oh man, on social media?
It can be anything, kind of the first thing that pops to your head.
My gosh. And we talked about this off camera a little bit. When you start something, there's a lot of excitement. As you go, things tend to kind of dim down, whether that's the engagement you're getting, or whether that's your own excitement, your own enthusiasm towards what you're doing. There's a lot of reasons once you start in a business or start a new venture to quit. There's a lot of arrows that point, hey, turn around, go back.
Yeah.
This may not be for you. And so I think the biggest thing, if I'm talking to young people here, is if you want to start something and you want to do something, to just continue to do it. Be consistent, right?
Yeah.
If you want to start making YouTube videos and you make one video and it doesn't really hit and you stop, that's a shame. That's a bummer, because your 35th video could be the one that gets you onto the next level, starts making you money, starts growing your brand. And so that is kind of the motto that I live by. It's not paying attention to, how does each thing do and how many likes, it's how consistent can I be and how can I continue to just move up and get better, because anything can go viral, anything can get big, anything can grow exponentially. What's that quote you say? A lot of things can happen in a second or whatever.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure about that one, but I was thinking about a quote from a guy named Derek Sivers, and he says, "You never know what's going to be your winning lottery ticket, but
Love that.
You have to keep getting tickets." Not saying that you should spend all your money on lottery tickets, people. But especially when you're young, and life's long and hopefully getting longer, assuming the world doesn't fall apart. We have so much time, and if you can be, like you said, persistent, and then consistent, that over the course of time will get you very, very far. Because just many people, by the nature of being frustrated, by the nature of not wanting to do things that aren't currently paying off, people stop trying and stop working towards long-term goals. So being able to do something consistently and persistently over the course of time will help drastically.
If you want to start something, I live by 3 rules. It's in a book, Good to Great, by Jim Collins. 3 things have to happen. You have to be, if you want to start a business, if you want to get into a business and you're trying to judge whether you'll succeed or not, 3 things have to happen. You have to be passionate about what you do. You have to be talented to some sorts, or willing to work to be talented at what you're doing. And there has to be some sort of market for it, right? In this day and age, there's a market for almost everything, because if you are putting things out on the internet, right, there's a crowd that likes, I'm trying to think of a weird,
basket weaving.
Basket weaving, exactly, right? So back in the day, maybe you wouldn't be able to succeed in the industry of basket weaving, but now there is a crowd who will follow you about basket weaving. And so there is a lot of opportunity, a lot of different markets that will hit because of the internet. And so the most important things are, you've got to be passionate about what you do, and you've got to be talented. If me and Ryan were talking about this, if I wanted to get into being an accountant or a financial planner, it wouldn't work, because I have no interest in that stuff, right? Maybe I could learn to be good enough to get by, but I would never succeed in that business because it's not what my talents are. So being able to kind of find what you're good at and what you're passionate about, and kind of bringing those together, that's what creates that special thing that makes success happen.
Man, I love that idea. I love the idea of the internet kind of enabling people to pursue more just like unique types of things. So someone who is basket weaving, is quilting, I don't know what is dog training, for example. There's now ways that you can actually make that thing part of what makes you money. Kind of make that thing, that passion, that thing that you're talented about, your income. And it's a cool thing, because you mentioned you got to be passionate and you got to be talented. But the thing is that talent kind of comes with practice. Some people will naturally be talented at certain things, but you can practice anything to become talented. But the hard thing is you have to want to practice that thing.
Right.
And so now with the internet, with social media, it just gives people the options to practice obscure things, or things that just make them feel amazing, get talented at that thing and hopefully try to turn that into a source of income.
Yeah, it's funny. The biggest, the example that I was given is VHS tapes. You're passionate for movies and VHS tapes.
Yeah.
There's not really a market for that in the movie industry, but on the internet, there is a market for people who could be passionate about VHS tapes, movies, film, and stuff like that. So in this day and age, there is a big opportunity to be able to take on kind of these unique things that maybe in the past were not that cool, and turn it into something. And so you do have kind of a wide array now of things that you can be interested in and turn into something if you use the right tools to put it out there.
Absolutely, yeah. If y'all are hearing that, if you're into any weird things, know that you might be able to make that your living.
You just might. You just might.
Awesome. So that was a good conversation. I want to ask you a little bit more. Let's talk about. You mentioned at the very beginning. And this is kind of evolved from, I think, your social media focus. What are you doing now, and how have you brought that love for food back into your life?
Yeah, so recently, and I would say weeks ago, within the month, I started a food review page here in Northwest Arkansas called NWA's Tastiest. Now, we're biggest on Facebook. We also have Instagram, and we also have YouTube. And you guessed it, we're also on TikTok too, because why not, right? It is a food review focused, basically local restaurant focused food review page. So the purpose of it is to drive local people to local restaurants, keep everything local. If we can make one local restaurant the new favorite spot for one local person, then we've made some sort of difference in that restaurant, right, in a local business's business. So that was kind of the spark of, inspiration for starting the page, and it has been a blast doing it so far. Yeah, loved it.
That is awesome. And so kind of what you do is you go to these local restaurants and you try their food. Kind of how does that work?
Yeah, so it's really simple. So we go, me, Dylan, and Luz, we go to a local restaurant, we order food. What we do is we order the two most popular entrees or kind of dishes that they have.
Yeah.
Taste them, compare, contrast. I like this. A lot of restaurants say, oh, we have the best sandwich.
Yeah.
We have the best this or that. We try those. We say, okay, I like this about this one, right? We kind of compare and contrast and just give a little bit of an insight into the restaurant. In addition, we love to talk to local people who are out there trying the food, or business owners or whoever's involved, and kind of just get some other opinions.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's awesome. And so I'm going to point out one thing. So you said some of the spark behind it is if you can help one restaurant have one person that becomes their new favorite spot, it's the difference. I love that.
Thank you.
And I think lots of times I'll fall into the personal trap of like wanting to kind of change the world, want to try to affect all these people's lives. Like if I'm not like changing society, I'm not doing it type of thing. I think some other people who like try to be entrepreneurs and just never get to pull the trigger might think about that. So I just wanted to hear just a little bit more on that idea of helping one person out. How has that it's inspired you to start this food review page? Does that help you across any of your other businesses?
That's interesting. I think it's interesting. I think if you can help one person, then you can help a lot of people. I think when starting a business, you automatically think how many lives can I affect, right? Like how much money can I make? How much of this? Like you're trying to think in this kind of macro, like exponential way of thinking. And so I think it's very simple to just say, if I can help one person, then I know that this is working, and that justifies me continuing to do this thing, right? If I can help one person. I think that's how we should go about business and life. Just always thinking, if this helps, if this serves, then I'm doing the right thing. And if I love it,
Mhm.
right, I'm pretty good at it. If this serves, that would be a good thing to add to that list almost.
Yeah.
Then I'm doing the right thing, and that I could be successful. And so I think it's almost one of those one bite at a time type of analogies. That is, if you can start with one, then you can affect many. So
That's awesome.
start, yeah.
That's an awesome way to think about life. You said it. If I love it, I can't remember the middle part, and then if it serves. What were those 3 words?
If I love it, if I'm good at it, and that's up for debate, because if I'm willing to become good at it,
Okay.
And it serves, then that's
Mhm.
that's how you'll know you're in the
Yeah.
right place.
Yeah.
A lot of people will look up after working a job for a long time and realize, I don't even like what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Why am I here? Maybe you're good at. So that's the example is someone who's was raised by lawyers,
Yeah.
and so they go into law because they're good at it,
Mhm.
but they're not passionate for it.
Yeah.
And they look up and they say, you know what, I really don't love this. I'm just good at it.
Mhm.
You don't have to do that. And so there's kind of a mix of like, are you good at it, but also are you passionate for it, which is more important.
Yeah. And I do think, I really like the passion kind of first, and I like the serving first. If you can find a way to serve people with passion, the being good at it is something you can learn.
Yeah.
And that's something that, I started a YouTube channel, and I'll be honest, the videos are iffy at best. If you watch the first one, you'll be like, what? This kid has no idea how to edit, no idea how to record. But you start to learn about things, and you can learn. So if you're passionate, if you're good at it, and if it serves, do it. And I think you can learn how to be good at it and also develop a passion for things. That's a sweet concept, a huge takeaway for me personally. I think other people, you've affected that one person.
There you go.
And I think therefore you'll affect many more. So one more question about Tastiest, and then we'll start wrapping it up.
Yeah.
I've looked around, and there's a handful of other kind of like food review places in Northwest Arkansas, and other people, if they're listening somewhere in Texas, I know some people are listening in Dallas. The handful of people that listen from Ireland, shout out to you. I have no idea who you are, but you're awesome. And so I see there's other pages that have done something similar. Did you know about them? And if so, how did you decide that even though there's someone kind of doing something similar, I'm gonna do my version of it? How did you go into something that lots of people would say, someone's already doing that, I can't do that myself?
I love that you said that. I have full confidence that what we're doing is something somewhat unique and something new. And so that's really exciting. I could name probably 10 food review pages, YouTube, whatever, that are happening in the United States. There's probably 100 of them, and so it's not as important to that I create something brand new that no one's seen. It's important that I create something with a purpose to, again, serve and to grow it, and I'm passionate for it. I really want to have a reason to be out in the community talking to people. I think that that's something that I love to do, and I'm passionate for. I'll never get tired of getting to chat with people and meet new people, and helping business owners is amazing. And so I do think that that's where the passion comes in. It's, I know that there's 100 hat companies. I know that there's a million businesses like this. That's it's not, the purpose is not to find the most, brand newest thing. It's to create something that you're passionate for, and kind of, you can always bring your own twist to it.
Yeah. That's freaking inspiring. I inspired myself. That's amazing. So cool. I'm going to ask you maybe just a few kind of rapid fire questions.
All right.
Bit about your life, and then we'll start wrapping it up. But so you mentioned, for those of you who are watching and can see this hulk of a man, you work out. How does working out fit into your lifestyle, and how has kind of working out and being fit like helped you in all the other aspects of your life?
So I'm a big kind of sporadic type of person, energy type of person, and so I've found that having the discipline to be able to work out, eat correctly, and I don't always do that. And I do eat cheat meals, and I do a lot now. But being able to kind of have a system in place that I know that I can follow, and I know, makes me feel energized, healthy, and look great, is exactly, I don't know. It's exactly what I need to kind of push me through the day. And so where I do find that a lot of, and that's okay, I do find that, a lot of my day is sporadic, but being able to work out daily, being able to really follow a plan has helped me a ton just in my own growth.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so another question, rapid fire. On the days Patrick Pulliam is at his peak, is there a set of routines or rituals that kind of makes you just like feel so good and you're just crushing it?
So every time that I'm able to sit in silence, whether that's in prayer, whether that's in meditation, early in the morning, it ramps my day up to this amazing, like, accomplished feeling. I think we should all start, I think we kind of make the mistake of starting with distractions. We wake up and hit our phone and we've got texts and calls, but to be able to push that aside and really spend some time in the spirits, if you will, has always got me going.
Yeah.
Workouts, great. Man, what makes my perfect day? I don't even know. It's just when everything's clicking, you know?
Yeah.
I can't even answer that perfectly because every day's different, but I do love to start the morning off with a little bit of silence, a little bit of meditation, and even get some reading in too.
Nice. So it kind of every day looks a little bit different. You don't operate on a strict routine. You're kind of able to go with the flow a little bit more.
Yeah, and that's been a big change in my life. There was a portion of time where I was always waking up at the same exact time and trying to get my workout done. And I've figured out for me, and this is not advice to anybody else, but just a perspective, is when I'm able to kind of flow with the day and follow the energy rather than really try to stick myself into sectioned out times, I function at a way higher level, which some people would probably oppose. That there's a lot of benefits to having a structure as well. But me personally, I'm a little bit more of a kind of a free bird.
That's awesome.
Like,
you got to find what works for you.
Exactly.
And it sounds like you're at least discovering that or finding that.
Yeah.
So here's another one. If you were to give a TED Talk, what would the topic be about?
Holy cow. That's a tough question, man. Probably my TED Talk would be about seeking opportunities. How to, and I haven't studied into this in terms of what a type of speech I would give, but I would really want to talk about how to, I'd love to teach people on how to look for the next opportunity, how to open up, and like I said earlier in the podcast, every person you meet can lead you to the next opportunity. If Ryan and I met and we had really never given each other the time of day, then we wouldn't be sitting here right now, right? If I wouldn't have shown much interest in what he does, which I'm fascinated with what you do. So how to meet people and kind of bring them into your life. Everybody can serve a purpose in your life, and so I would want to talk about how to open up your floodgates and let people in, and kind of build your life off of the opportunities that show themselves.
That's awesome. I would listen to that TED Talk for sure. I think that's a
may have to add that to the bucket list. I know you've done a lot of that stuff. By the way, what if you're on your next TED Talk? What are you going to do?
Well, I haven't given much thought to TED Talks recently. I think mostly because the things that I would put into a TED Talk, I've been putting onto the podcast. But let's say if I were selected to do a TED Talk in a month, I think what I would talk about is just being thoughtful, and the idea of being thoughtful. I think lots of us tend to go through life and we're reacting to things. Something stressful happens. We look at our phone and social media gets us riled up. Pandemic comes. Police brutality is happening, and the first thing that most people do is they feel it in their chest, and that dictates how they respond to a situation. And I just think there's so much value in taking a second to kind of feel what you're feeling, and then thinking about how you want to respond to the situation at hand. And being able to pause and know when you are being emotional and feeling these emotions, and that's okay, and reacting accordingly. But just being thoughtful and teaching people, how to reflect on your life, how to reflect on the circumstances that have gotten you to where you are, and just the idea that if you think more in the right ways, you really can open up lots of doors for yourself internally and externally.
And I think you might be the perfect teacher teaching people how to think. You got a really creative mind, obviously, and you're very smart, so I'd listen to it.
Well, I appreciate that.
Of course, bro.
Well, Pat, we're finishing up here. Is there anything else you want to let the fans know, the podcast, the YouTube, anyone on social media? Is there anything that you want to tell the world while you have the chance?
Man, I would just say I'm really appreciative of everybody who's listening to this, because that means they've gotten on because they support Ryan or they support me, so I'm really appreciative of that. I'm on Instagram at Patrick Pulliam. On Facebook, real estate page is Patrick Pulliam Premier Properties, and then obviously NWA's Tastiest if you want to see some amazing food reviews. And Ryan, obviously, I'm really appreciative of you having me on this.
Yeah.
Actually pretty fun.
Yeah, it was great. If you like this, please feel free to let us know. It was an awesome conversation, and this was definitely about Pat, which it should be, because Pat, like I said, is the second sexy guest. And we'll have all of his information for you to check out what Pat is doing in the show notes. So feel free to check out those notes and find his handles, his pages, and everything there. If you like this, let us know, and we'll have Pat back on. We can talk about anything, whether that's business, whether that's working out, whether that's food, anything under the sun, let us know. But anyways, I think we're going to wrap it up here unless you have anything else to say.
That's it, man. I'm really appreciative. This has been fun.
Perfect. Well, Patrick Pulliam, everybody, it has been a pleasure. Thank you for hopping on the podcast with me and providing such a wonderful conversation filled with lessons, stories from your life, and I think a little bit of motivation for all of us to be passionate, to get good at something, and to serve other people.
Thank you.
Patrick Pulliam, everybody.
Right.
Have a great day.
Love it.
Batteries went dead for like 2 minutes.
That's fine.
But now
Are you going to